90,000 of these DVDs in the black neighborhood. We gotta know who Wendy Davis is. We gotta understand who Royce Wesley is. The Bible says, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Black people have been going to the poll under illusion. We have been blaming white people for all our shortcomings. Anything go wrong in the black neighborhood, it is the white folks who's the cause of it. Discrimination, segregation. So we playing the blame game, but we cannot blame our way to success in America. We gotta go to work, we gotta take advantage of the opportunities and the freedom that's here, and that's what we're gonna promote in District 23. I'm a little disappointed in the Republican Party. In District 23, there's 6 state representatives, there's 1 state senator, there's 1 Congresswoman, Eddie Johnson. All of them are Democrats, no Republicans is running, and a chairman of the Dallas County Republican Party came to my church to convince me not to run against Royce West. So we're gonna concede half the county before the race even begins. And let me tell you, we're not gonna do that. They're killing too many babies. I'm over 30 seconds. But if you would take one of these DVDs, make a donation, I'm gonna use whatever money I get in the next couple of days for my filing fee. And I'm gonna file, and we're gonna run in South Dallas, and we're gonna tell the truth about what the Democratic Party is about, and we are gonna wake people up, and we're gonna take our country back from these people. Thank you so much.
We have other candidates here tonight.
With 1 second to spare.
We have other candidates here tonight, and I'm going to get you guys to just stand up and introduce yourselves and tell what position you're running for under 3 seconds, okay? Because we got a long program tonight. But before we do that, I'm going to give you an opportunity to think about standing up and doing that. We're going to pass the hat tonight to keep the lights on, okay? And we have volunteers who bring in food and drinks and things like this, and it would really help us if you would reach down and get a $1,000 bill out of your bill fund.
How about that $1 trillion?
Okay, this is TJ's hat, so take care of it.
Why don't we start in this area and we'll work around this way. If you're running for a position, if you will, please stand up and introduce yourself and what position you're running for. Frank, you want to start?
All those who are first timers here don't know me. I'm Frank Bouchard, and I am running for the United States House of Representatives against Joe Barton.
Yes, sir.
My name is Tim King. I'm running for Ellis County Commissioner down in Precinct 2. Is anybody here from Precinct 2? Oh, yay! Hi, Tommy. How are you?
All right, next.
My name is Darren Bromlick, and I'm running for County Commissioner for Precinct 2 for Precinct 2 as well.
Okay. Anybody else in this area? Yes, sir.
I'm Richard Rozier, and I'm running for County Judge.
Okay. Richard, can you tell us a little bit about, because most of these people have stood up before, can you tell us just in 30 seconds?
In 30 seconds, I'm not a preacher, but I used to be one, so I'll try to keep it short. But my name is Richard Rozier. I live over here on Black Camp Road. My wife and I moved to Ellis County about 5 years ago. We've owned property for about 10 years and finally built a home and moved down. I'm the former mayor of DeSoto back in the 90s. And got to work with Pat over here. She retired when I got elected. I don't know exactly what that is. But anyway, we came to Waxahachie, and in the last, to be honest with you, the last 10 or 12 years, we've just been working hard, making a living, raising our grandkids, helping us raise our grandkids. My son and his wife live here in Waxahachie. But felt the burden that it's time to get off the couch and get to work.
There you go.
I should have been here sooner, and I apologize for that, but I'm here now.
Well, we got to work hard. Back in the back.
My name is R.C. Lyon. I'm also running for Ellis County Judge.
All right, sir. Anyone else? Let's start back here. Right here?
Yes, sir.
Evening, everybody. My name is Jay Kelsey. I'm a lifelong Texan, live up in Midlothian now, 20-year Navy veteran. I defended the Constitution for 20 years, came back home to find out that our government wasn't really following the Constitution anymore. So it's my honor to be able to throw my hat in the ring and run with Duke and TJ and send somebody good down to Austin.
All right, sir. All right, let's call on back row. Anybody coming this way? Anybody running? Yes, sir.
I'm Steve Egan, I'm the Justice of Peace, Precinct 4, running for re-election.
Yes, sir.
And I'm Duke Burge. I'm a Midlothian resident. Ran against Jim Pitts in 2006 and got walloped. Is that a word, walloped? Yeah. Because I did. And decided to run again after Jim retired this year. So I appreciate your support. I've been on the Midlothian School Board for quite a while. We got a great district up there. Pretty conservative school board. So,
Thank you, sir. Anybody in here? In here?
TJ in the back.
Where is TJ? There he is. TJ? You hiding? No. All right. Tell us who you are. First time TJ.
I can't talk without my hat on.
All right.
My name's TJ Fabby. I'm running for State Representative, District 10, a Tea Party candidate, one of the founding members of this movement here in this county, and have been working tirelessly for the last 6 years of my life to try to bring conservatism back, constitutionalism back, liberty, property rights, life in the womb. And those are my big concerns. I'm a small business owner, not a lawyer, not a banker, not your typical politician. My sole interest is to make the state of Texas freer for the next generation.
Okay, now then, I'm going to introduce to you Marty House. He's going to talk to us about something he's been working on. Marty? No microphone.
Okay, well, I'm Marty Howes, but I'm not from Italy. So we always ask, you from Italy? No. My brother-in-law was offended in Boston, he calls it Italy. Anyways, I've been working on a project, I call it Enemy at the Gate. And it's really about who is the enemy? Where do they come from? What are they planning? What is their strategies? And I've been working on a major project in Texas, but if you really look at who really is the enemy, and the enemy is our communists, socialists, Marxists, atheists, secularists, and it goes on and on and on. And who do they work with? Who are they members of? The Democratic Party. That's where the party's gone today. It's gone so far left. And people always complain about, you always hear demonizing the Tea Party, demonize the Tea Party Democrats. But if you think about it, we put our anchors in the ground. We said no more. The Republican Party still kept trying to pull left, the rhinos and the moderates, and the Democrats can't go off the cliff with the total socialism unless they get the Tea Party to pull the anchors off the ground. And we're not going to budge. And that's where it stands right today. So, and if you look at what happened in Austin, when they were down there in Austin, with the abortion issue, when the Christians were singing Amazing Grace, the left started singing Hail Satan, started yelling. You all saw that's in the video, that's on YouTube. So yeah, so what does that tell you? That tells me we're not fighting ideology anymore. We're fighting evil. We're fighting evil. And what's a byproduct of evil? Communism, socialism, Marxism, atheism, it goes on and on and on. And that's what we're up against today. And you wonder why the country's divided. Well, that's the reason why. We're not going to move. I think all of us are in the same boat. Our anchors in the ground. We're not picking them up. We're not moving left anymore. And if you look at and talk about the enemy, that was like what Sun Tzu basically said. He was that famous Chinese general. Wrote the book, The Art of War. And he says basically, if you know yourself and you know your enemy, you'll have many victories. If you know yourself and don't know your enemy, for every victory you're going to basically have a defeat. And if you don't know your enemy and don't know yourself, you're doomed. Well, I think today a lot of people are not really aware of who the enemy is. I mean, we go, oh yeah, we can identify them, but how do they operate? What can we do to stand up against them? And part of that, the strategy we've been working on is, before I get to that, I was going to basically, where it all starts from is around the time of Christ, a philosophy came called Gnosticism, or not, they call themselves Gnostics. And that was basically salvation comes through man, not through God. And that's been parallel with Christians all the way. Well, when we got to the age of enlightenment, around the 16th and 17th century in Europe, that's when ideas of Locke and Rousseau and then Marxism even came out. And Marxist actually was a Gnostic, believe it or not. And then there was Lenin, of course. He was a guiding light and the founder of the Communist Party, as we all know, and the Soviet Union. And then in the 30s and 40s, you saw the labor movement in America. It was a Communist Party that was pushing that. And it was American exceptionalism that really stopped them from convincing workers to actually go full socialist, union. Then you got Cloward and Pittman, who basically were who admired Marx, and they've been out and teaching about how to. And this is what Obama's doing. They're teaching how to put as many people in the government dole as you can, bankrupt the system. This is what they put out years ago. And when it collapses, have it fall into a social system. Well, that's what Obama's doing. Obamacare is the new social system because we know there's more than just Obamacare in an Obamacare bill. You can see what they're up to. And then there's Sal Alinsky, Rules for Radicals. A lot of you are more familiar with that's more recent. And who was he? He was a community organizer. We ever heard that before? And he wrote a brilliant book on strategy for the left and how to demonize, how to attack, how to personalize your opponent. And you see it. I mean, every day I read the paper and I watch the news and I see it all the time. They're always attacking. They attack you. How many times do you talk to a liberal or progressive, and then when they get frustrated, because we're conservatives, we're pragmatic and we're realists. We deal with facts. And when they get frustrated, they start all of a sudden calling you names. That's because they have nothing else to go on. And so then there's the coming insurrection. A lot of people aren't aware of that book. And I got my hands on a rare copy. And that's where in France, the socialists there was actually going to overthrow the government. They were doing sabotage. They put together a book. They detailed. It's kind of scary to read it, but that's kind of what they're trying to bring here. And then there's you heard about Obama when he won in the precincts in Ohio. He won 100% in a lot of precincts. How did he do that? Then he won 110% in one, which is amazing. And it was this called it was done by this group, this young group called. They even documented it called Inside the Cave. And it's a digital algorithm statistical analysis group of young kids, and then now they call it Battleground Texas. They're here. Ohio was a test for them. They're here for this coming election. The same group in Colorado. Now this is a big shocker, how conservative Colorado went Democrat in 2 elections. Now here's the book, it's called The Blueprint. The Democrats had a brilliant strategy they put together, and they used it. And they actually, where there was precincts in Colorado, 55% voter registration Republican, 32% Democrat, and the Democrats won. You're going, how'd that happen? That was just one of many precincts. And what they did was they had a brilliant strategy they put together, and then after they won the 2 elections, they left it in a copier, and Republicans got their hands on it. And then they turned around and they got together with a lot of the congressmen and senators and lost, and they overlaid it over the tactics that we used against them. And this put together detailed, brilliant. I've read every inch of this book. Brilliant, but try to find a copy. That's the problem. I had to pay $100 to a publisher, the last one they had. And I can't seem to get another one, no matter how hard I try. And I don't know whether people are buying it or whether the left is sitting on it, one or the other. But it's called The Blueprint, How the Democrats Won Colorado and Why Republicans Everywhere Should Know, or should care. Brilliant piece of, if you ever get your hands on one. And it talks about, like Harry Reid. Harry Reid should never have won in Nevada. What he did, there was 2 Republicans ran. The Tea Party ran as one girl named Ingram, and there was an Ingle, I think her name was. And there was another one they ran, the other one who the Republican Party ran, who was well-established, well-known. She was ahead of Hillary in the polls. So what they do? This is what they do now. They got into the primaries, attacked the strong Republican, tore her down so bad, and then so the weak Republican eventually won, the primary, and then in the election, they just told her about paying her right up. And when you talk about the precinct in Colorado, what they did, and this is another strategy they used, you had the conservative wing of the party ran a conservative primary, and a moderate Republican ran the primary. That's typical in a lot of Republican primaries. And so when they ran, the Democrats ran nasty, horrible things they said about both candidates, ran terrible ads against them, tearing them up, and they got so vicious and nasty that when whoever was going to win, the other side wasn't going to vote for them. So the conservatives actually won the primary, so some of the moderates went to work for the Democrats because it was so bad, because of the hate and discontent they caused. And then the governor of Colorado, 4 years, well-respected guy. The Democrats run a no-name, somebody who really, even you saw when he had the floods, he was talking on the news here recently in Colorado. I don't know how they ever got that guy in office. But what they did was, and this is like Abby and the other ones should watch for this, what they started doing was they started filing a lawsuit every single day on the governor. Every single, some days they filed 7. And so his headline in the news media, the liberal news media fed it. Well, look at this, look at this, look at this. Headlines, and all of a sudden his support started dropping. His donations started dropping. And he lost to that no-name Democrat. And originally he was going to win. And these are a lot of the rotten tactics. What they did with, I believe this was, I'm trying to remember, it was either Harry Reid or another Republican, I think it was the governor, also the governor in Colorado. What they did was 5 days before the election, they mailed these push cards. And look what this well-known, somewhat respected Republican is saying about this Republican. And you get this thing in the mail, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Even says that about, I ain't voting for him. And that's what they did. But the card had no name on it, no who to call, no nothing, right? But because of the little nonprofit seal number, they traced it down. It went in through Salt Lake and out to the Clinton Initiative. The Clinton Initiative, that big, they got $50 million to push all their social programs. They paid and sponsored a push card that had nothing but pure lies on it. Because that Republican swore he never said any of that. And no one ever heard him say that anyway. It was just, this is what we're up against. So when people say, well, they're never going to get Texas, you throw that in to throwing dead people and throw in illegal aliens, and don't tell me that Texas can't go blue. I mean, I'm here to tell everybody, you need to be scared, you need to be involved. You really need to. Because if they take over, look what they did, gun rights in Colorado, right off the bat. And all the other social programs are pushing in the state. So, we've got some challenges ahead of us, big time. But I guess to me, the biggest offense I take is 500 years of Europeans, predominantly Europeans, coming to America, scratching out, living out the land, making us the greatest country in the world. And the signs, you think about it, before America came along, there was either kings, queens, or tribal leaders. 1% of the world lived high in a hog, and the rest of the people in the world lived in poverty. We brought representative democracy to the world. Science, technology, what we brought to the world is amazing, in medicine. It just, and we're at a golden age, and these people all of a sudden, we want to change it. They want to change it to what? Socialism. What is socialism? You know what socialism is? It's communist-like. In communism, I had a friend who was in communist Russia. Like he said, they picked my partner for me, they picked my job for me. And he goes, we just drank vodka on the job all day because I was getting paid the same as this guy, and he wasn't doing anything, so why should I work hard? And that's really how communism works. And in socialism, basically you can own things, but the government has such control of your life with laws, rules, regulations, and we're starting to see that. So really, socialism is communist-like. So this is a short thing I wanted to do, is I wanted to just make people aware of what's coming. I've been working on some paper and some documents. We got a project we're working on for Texas for a complete. It's more like the problem we have as conservatives is we're very pragmatic, realist type people. We're very independent, and so you got all these one-issue-oriented conservative groups out there, and they're duplicating their efforts. Here's the Democrats, like a board in Star Trek, one big mindset. They got it together. They're organized, and we're not. And we need to get organized. We need to start working together. We need to start realizing our commonality, what we have in common, and get away from all the little issues, that divide us. We need to start working together, all of us, the Republicans, the Libertarians, the Conservatives, Christians. I know some Christians, I want to vote for him, he's a different Christian than me. That's not going to work for us. Or let's go start a third party. Well, that's a Ross Perot, and look at that for Clinton one. You know, we get it. The communists the communists right now, the party has put an article out there bragging how they got key positions in the Democratic Party and how they're controlling the party in some ways, and they plan to do more. Well, what we need to do is we need to go take the Republican Party over. That's conservative. We need to get people in position of power. We need to, in the leadership of the Republican Party, we need to get people who like Frank and some of the other ones who are conservative running for seats, take over. And this way, and it's going to be like with the Whigs and the Republicans, if you remember what happened there. And same thing. I mean, either the moderate right Republicans will either go Democrat or they'll come back to the fold. But we got challenges, and I hate to say this, but you know, what's the other option? If we don't get together and work together and use the pen next to the sword, and I hate to see that happen, but this country is really dividing, and they're going as far left as they can, the government and the socialists, and they're bragging about it. I mean, they put their stuff out everywhere and publish it. So anyway, that's about all I have. I didn't mean to scare everybody, but you should be scared. You really should be. So, but I thank you.
Marty and I and some of the others on the steering committee went to the Republican Party Central Texas meeting that we had here a few months ago. We had a guest speaker that was from Colorado, and he explained to us exactly how the Democrats took over Colorado, and it come quickly. We cannot allow that to happen. We have got to stay red, like the girls that's wearing the red shirts over here. Let's keep Texas red. There's a lot of truth in it. Let me tell you a little bit about Marty. I know this is probably going to run into about midnight. Marty is a disabled veteran, U.S. Marine Corps, and he's 100%. He spent over 20 years in Washington fighting for veterans' rights. And he knows how the game is played, and he's stepping up to the plate like the rest of us, and we're going to try to work hard to take back America. That's what we're going to try to do. I'm going to turn our program over a little bit different now. We're going to talk a little bit about taxes. Most of you will probably agree we probably need to start completely over and throw the old system out.
Amen.
Half the people are not paying federal taxes in America. I kind of personally get tired of supporting people who don't want to work and they're sitting around watching Oprah. So, Glenn, if you will, please stand, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about what you know about your program.
My name is Glenn Terrell. I live in Arlington, and I've been politically active for about 4 years. I first learned about the fair tax when I was helping in Frank Kushar's campaign 2 years ago. And he introduced me to it. I bought the first 2 books, and I read them both, and I am a fair tax advocate. A serious fair tax advocate. And when the Go organization fell and closed up shop, we thought we had a pretty good program of letters to the editor. We had developed a spreadsheet with over 3,000 email addresses of newspapers across the country. And one guy said, well, let's contact the fair tax people and see if we can help them. So I've been with the fair tax for all of this year, since January of this year, promoting the fair tax mainly through letters to the editor. We even built a website where we can write a letter, put it into the editor in there, push a button, and the thing puts us in a queue, and it sends out that email letter to the editor to 3,000 to 4,000 editors in a week's time. About 3 months ago, a lady from Georgia, she had just joined our group, told me, Glenn, you ought to look at Twitter. Do you tweet? Do you have a Facebook account? No. I'm social media challenged big time. And she said, you know, listen, with Twitter, you can reach a lot of people. So about 3 months ago, I started tweeting. And a month ago, I bought a software program, TweetAdder. 2 weeks ago, I started using it. It's wonderful. Now,
Is it for your computer?
yes, it helps you build your Twitter followers, and it does a whole bunch of really good stuff. About 2 months ago, I came to the realization, unto the understanding and the conviction, that the elected congressman will never, ever adopt the fair tax under their own volition. The only hope we have is getting rid of all those guys and gals, all of them, if we can, and replace them with patriots. You know, there's a bunch of patriots around. There's 50 or 60, 70 of them in this room. And every one of you are a potential candidate. It would serve America very well if you were elected congressman. We don't need all those lawyers and crooks and thugs up there. The system is corrupt to the core. Now, at the door, on the table out there, I have one of these little push cards about the fair tax. If you don't know anything about it, this is the place to start. I have a bunch of these little, they're very cute cards. I designed them myself. It has my name and email address on it. I would like to hear from you. I have 40 copies of this one-page handout. It's got 2 URLs at the top, that either one of which will take you to a spot on the internet. It's a Dropbox that I have that the good people at the Fair Tax Organization posted on their website. Now, you don't see their website, you don't see anything about the fair tax there. This is called Glenn T's, that's for Glenn Terrell, Patriot Stuff. It has 4 folders in there. One of them is concerns our letters to the editor program. The second one is the Twitter project. And then there's a Ways and Means Committee phone numbers. That's a project. And the 4th one is called Twitter Army. And the Twitter Army is what I want to push before you tonight. How many of you tweet ever? Half a dozen. Listen, most of you are old like me. Most of you are a little younger than I am. Some number of you are older than I am. But we need to get engaged. With Twitter, my stuff I tweet each day is put before 100,000 people each day, between what I tweet and other people retweet. I think we can use that to real advantage to elect patriots. I'm going to do it in Texas District 6. I'm a very strong Frank Kuchar supporter, and I've got a system that I think will work using Twitter. And if you tweet, I would like for you to pick up one of these pages. And if you don't tweet, pick one up anyway. Because if you just get an email address and a Twitter account, and contact me, I'll do the rest. If you give me authority to tweet using your account. We can set District 6 in Texas afire just a little while. Just a little while. And we've got plenty of time before March comes and the primary gets here. If you're gonna defeat one of our congressmen, you've got to do it in the primary. So with that, I hope I've been through my word in under 5 minutes, but again, pick up one of those cards, email me, and please, I would love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Terrell. We are honored to have as our guest speaker tonight, Joanne Fleming. If you will, start coming this way, Joanne. Joanne is a well-known Texas conservative leader and is an executive director of the Grassroots of America, We the People. She will speak to us tonight about saving our state from the elite progressives who are trying to take Texas down the same track as California. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Joanne Fleming.
Stretch a little bit, because I'm going to tell you, when you sit down, you got to buckle into your seat. My job here tonight is to make you mad, okay? And I'm pretty good at doing it. I've done this presentation about 5 times this week. You can sit down now. Before I get into the presentation, I want to tell you about an event that we've got going on across the state. I appreciated the gentleman talking about how the different groups need to work together. For the first time in Texas history, you have Texas Right to Life, Texas Eagle Forum, Grassroots America, Empower Texans, and Texas Homeschool Coalition leaders. We're all going all across the state talking about how we have missed opportunities in the last 2 legislative sessions. Why is that important to you? Because the establishment from both the right and the left in Austin are pushing us closer to California. And you don't know a lot of this because we've had a decade at least of a concerted effort for our statewide leaders to tell you there's nothing wrong in Texas. You just keep looking at Washington, D.C., and you be angry at Washington, D.C. There's nothing to see here. Meanwhile, Texas state government spends too much, it borrows too much, and it taxes too much. So we're going to go through this tonight, and if you'll hold your questions till the end, I will try to answer your questions, and I promise you that if I don't know the answer, I won't make it up, but I'll try to find the answer for you. Tonight I'm speaking as the Executive Director, which is a full-time volunteer position of Grassroots America, We the People. We are home-based in Tyler, Texas. That is to the east of Dallas-Fort Worth. And I am also the 2-term chairman of the Texas Legislature's Tea Party Caucus Advisory Committee. That means I went down to Austin as a volunteer. Don't even pick up an expense check. I want you to know that. And worked with another group of citizens. It was about 14 of us to meet with legislators, with House members and senators. And it is amazing and quite predictable that a lot of those guys that never darkened the door of the Tea Party caucus meeting are now trying to date us. Because they're all running for re-election or they're running for higher office. So all of a sudden they're going, do you remember me? Well, no, I've never seen you in any of our meetings. So, this is called Texas Closer. We're closer than you think. And this is not clicking. This is not advancing.
Sorry, Joanne.
It's beaming.
It's beaming. No, you just got that. All righty.
control we have.
We have to have a child tell us how to use these controllers.
Well,
The only way
see,
they can do it is ours.
in deference to Harlan, who was really good at doing that, I usually have my own that I take with me, so I'm using a foreign device. Okay. So what do all of the Texas Tea Parties, 9/12s, Ron Paul supporters, constitutional conservatives, Reagan Republicans, what do we all have in common? I call all of us the Texas Liberty Movement, and over the last 2 legislative sessions, our common goal has been this. It's a simple goal, and it's to make Texas strong, so that her character and her integrity and her pro-liberty governance will do what? Provide answers to a nation that is looking for answers. How many people in here believe that the mess we've got in Washington is going to be solved anytime soon? Any takers? Well, I have to tell you that when I asked that of some statewide leaders and some state senators and House members, they look at me like I came from Neptune. Because you see, they don't see the problem the way we see it. Many of them just really don't. So how do we make Texas strong? We need to reduce dependence on federal dollars, resist any increase in state debt, get our state's fiscal house in order, uphold the rule of law at all times, reduce regulation, set much higher standards in ethics and transparency for the elected officials, and resist unconstitutional federal overreach. So, I'm going to hyper-click here. All right, so let's first talk about federal funds. Did you know that Texas is 11th in the nation in dependency on federal dollars to balance our state budget? 11th in the nation. That information comes from the Legislative Budget Board, Texas Public Policy Foundation, and the Tax Foundation. So if you look up here the history of the last 4 biennial budgets, you can see how much in federal funds we have propping up our state budget. You'll see there that we had a sharp increase in 2010, 2011. Those were federal stimulus funds. We took them. So the next biennium, 2012 and 2013, where everybody said, oh my gosh, the sky's falling, and then when it was all over, they went, oh, look at us. We cut spending in Austin. Well, of the $15 billion that they cut, about $12 billion was the one-time federal stimulus funds we weren't getting the next biennium anyway. So you have to really watch the math in Austin, because it is designed to keep you from knowing what's going on. If you look at the 2014-2015 biennium that we just passed this budget in the 83rd, you will see that we're back up to $69 billion in federal funds propping up our state budget. That's 35% of our state budget revenue. How many people think this makes Texas strong? No. Anybody? Okay, well, you might say, well, you know, Joanne, but Texas taxpayers, individuals, and businesses pay a lot into the federal treasury. We certainly do. But we have not been a donor state since 2008. That means that we take out, since 2008, we take out far more out of the federal treasury than we put in. So what does that mean? Our hands on the shovel digging the hole too. So our message to the legislature is, stop chasing all the federal grants. You would not believe how much money we get in federal grants. In fact, when I was doing research for the Attorney General Candidate Forum, do you know that the Attorney General's budget has about $500 million in federal funds in the state Attorney General's budget? That's a lot of money, don't you think? All right. I'm just not with this. Okay, state debt. According to the Legislative Budget Board, our state debt during the session was almost $41 billion. This was an increase of almost $23 billion, or we have increased the state debt over 125% over the last 10 years. So if you think the federal government's going the wrong way with debt, so is the state of Texas. That's quite an increase, don't you think, in state debt? 125% over the last 10 years. In fact, in a 2010 Grant Thornton audit, that audit said that the debt path that Texas is on is unsustainable. And in a March 2012 AP story, they said that Texas leads the nation in transportation debt. We have dug a really deep hole for ourselves in transportation because of the way we handle transportation. And I won't go into those details tonight because I could have you here till 2 o'clock in the morning and you would hate me after that. Another indicator is that the state of Texas has more debt on its books than the U.S. Postal Service. I told you I was here to make you mad. But one thing the Tea Parties did this session is we absolutely killed a preposterous idea called century bonds. So those of you who might get mad at me, I'm going to tell you, don't get mad at Harlan and Linda for inviting me. Don't get mad at them for what I say. You'd be mad at me. Governor Perry, for those of you who love Governor Perry, Governor Perry wanted very much for us to go down the road of century bonds. Those are 100-year bonds to fund transportation. That is the wrong direction for Texas. I will tell you that, and let me pause here to say, I am so glad Jim Pitts will not be back in the state. Between Jim Pitts being the head of appropriations in the House and Tommy Williams, another big spender from the Woodlands, who, by the way, will not be back, heading up the State Finance Committee, when their baseline budgets came out, and those baseline budgets did not include funding for transportation and didn't include funding for water, which are two core functions of state government, I knew we were in trouble. We were going to have a spending spree. And we absolutely did. But one of the things we killed was the century bonds. I think some of you all were there. I don't remember if Linda and Harlan were there. But we had a press conference in the Lieutenant Governor's press room on April the 15th. And I had called all the Liberty Group leaders to Austin to do this, to stand with me to say no to century bonds. And we said that we would look at a vote for century bonds just like we looked at a vote to raise taxes. Because borrow and spend is just as bad for the future of Texas as tax and spend is. And we have not paid as much attention to that as we should have over the last several years. But we're doing it now. And I will tell you that they carted out the Dallas Federal Reserve president to say, oh, those people don't know what they're talking about. You know, century bonds would be a smart thing to do for Texas. To which I responded, wow, the Federal Reserve has done such a bang-up good job. Of screwing up our monetary system and our economy. We really want some of that in Texas. So anyway, we avoided that. They finally dropped it. We made it toxic. So congratulations to the Liberty Movement in Texas. I'm going to get this down.
Joanne, do you want me to sit?
Yeah.
I'll sit here.
Okay. Warning. Trouble ahead. Of the 10 largest states in the nation, Texas' local debt per person is the second highest in the nation. And after the, all the bond elections that were passed on Tuesday, I think we've added another $7 billion to that. I don't know what it is about not throwing your wallet at elected officials that some of our fellow Texans don't get. But I'm telling you, we're racking up debt. And so when you see that Texas is second in the nation for the highest local debt per person, we're headed in the wrong direction. Look at us, we're just behind New York. We're ahead of California and Illinois and Michigan. Is that a position of strength for the state of Texas? No, it's not. Okay, we're gonna. All right. So did we get Texas, our state fiscal house in order? No, because we still have too many gimmicks, duplicated effort, and duplicated spending beyond the core constitutional functions of state government. You can advance it. I'll tell you one thing. The state constitution says that the legislature shall balance the budget. All right, we get that. But the part that some of our elected officials like to neglect to tell you and remind you is that there are a number of ways to balance a budget. My favorite is to cut spending. You can cut spending, you can raise taxes, you can raise fees, you can do a combination of those, you can institute new taxes, institute new fees, you can use accounting gimmicks and deferrals, like moving forward one day in the accounting period, the funding for the foundation school program as they did in the 82nd legislative session, and running up a big tab on the Medicaid credit card. They had 24 months of spending and they only included 18 months of revenue. So we knew we were going to spend down the rainy day fund when they came back in the 83rd. So if you look at the session-to-session spending between the 82nd and the 83rd, there's a 24%. In fact, I just found some new numbers. It's actually closer to 25%. A 25% increase in spending. Have you heard any of your statewide officials running around being really proud of that? No, they're telling you that they've had a conservative budget. See, the Constitution says that they must keep spending within the limits of the growth of the economy in Texas. But the next sentence says that the state legislature shall define what that growth is. We've got to change that, folks. We've got to pass a constitutional amendment that says that the state of Texas will not spend more in a legislative session that is higher than the combined growth of population and inflation. That is the very least we can do to protect us against this nonsense. See, what they don't want to do is they don't want to include the supplemental spending that goes on between sessions. I'm going to ask you, in your household, spending is spending, right? Everything that goes out, we normally, in our businesses and households, anything that's flying out of the checking account, we call that spending, don't we? And anything we're racking up on a credit card, we call it spending. Well, in Austin, they don't quite define things the same way. Next. Now, this is a chart that you all can find on the Texas Public Policy Foundation's website. And this is something that helps you understand in a nice, clear, visual way the comparison between the 2012-2013 budget and the 2014-15 budget, and you will see that the legislature spent $20 billion more. Okay, so this will help you as you have statewide people running for statewide office blow through town. You need to ask them questions about this. You need to ask them, do you agree with this type of flagrant spending? And see, what I'm doing here tonight is trying to get you ready so that you can better vet and analyze the people who are running for statewide office and also your candidates who are running for the Texas House. By the way, you have a great senator, Senator Birdwell. Great senator, isn't Birdwell? Okay, so we can go on home. I'm gonna put this down because you're doing a better job than I am. Okay, now, so you might say, Joanne, so you keep talking about why we need to put state government back inside a Constitution-sized box. Well, how do we do that? Well, we get back to the core constitutional functions of state government, and here's what they are. Public education. By the way, the federal government has no constitutional role in education and public education, and it should be abandoned. Transportation. Let me throw a little bit at you here about what transportation really should be. Transportation should not be a tool of economic development. You hear what I'm saying? We should not build roads to nowhere. Exactly. In the state of Texas, whenever we have congestion issues and problems with transportation, I mean, you know, I travel all over this state, and it is ridiculous the way that we handle transportation in our state. I'll give you one quick example of waste. In Austin, they were going to add lanes to MOPAC, toll lanes to MOPAC. So when the bids came in, they were $20 million under the estimate. So the Regional Mobility Authority down there, rather than saying, okay, that $20 million can go to another project, they said, you know what, we'll keep that. And we're going to use that $20 million for enhancements. Do you know in the state of Texas they spend money on enhancements that have nothing to do with moving traffic? That's $20 million of waste. Meanwhile, if you go to a Transportation Commission meeting, they will be happy to show you the roads they're building to nowhere, because if we build them, businesses will come. Now, I want to remind you, as free market, liberty-loving people, we believe that free people exercising free choice in a free market will what? Create demand.